Hi, welcome to the Pulse. I hope you're doing well. I realized, I think, last episodes that yet again I have not been saying my name at all in the intros. I just say hi, welcome to the Pulse, and then I start on right away. So if you're new to this podcast, my name is Julie. I come from France. I live in Germany, and you can listen to, I think it was the intro or the first episode where I explained a little bit more about myself. So welcome to the new episodes. Today we are already in the fall and it's end of September, and I'm really happy to have you join the latest episodes of The Pulse. So what are we going to talk about today? I want to make really comparison in terms of what I've learned as an athlete, and I want to take it even beyond in this episode. I know I did an episode before regarding already taking some of the learnings that I had as an athlete, and I want to go, as I said, beyond. There is a lot to learn from athletes when it comes to career, when it comes to how they handle their day-to-day, how they handle their environment. And so I would like to make today's episode a teaching moment or a way for us to think in terms of how does that impact them, and also how can we replicate some of those things in our own career. Because really, we always kind of put, or at least I feel like a lot of people are putting the pro athletes in one categories, and then at the end of the day, our way of dealing in the day-to-day, in the work environment is slightly different. But there are similarities, and there is a lot we can learn from how athletes handle the day-to-day. So let's deep dive into today's episode. The first part of this episode I want to dedicate toward training. An athlete spend most of their life, a pro athlete, most of their days training. They usually have one or couple of competition a year, sometimes even less. Sometimes they even train for one key event, which is the Olympics, for example, every 4 years. And then they have some in-between smaller events with less importance. So they train most of the time. And what we can learn from that is the fact that you have to keep on training. You have to keep on learning. We very differently in the regular work environment, spend most of our time almost in competition mode, dealing with the day-to-day, having to perform. But we still need to take the time to learn and to grow our skills. Because if you keep using only the level of skills that you currently have and you don't keep on developing, then you're never going to be able to improve. And at the end of the day, you want to be always at your best, but your best evolves. The same way as if you look at today, right? A perfect 10 in gymnastics today is not the one that it was 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 years ago. It was a lot different. You can see the skills have evolved. If you look at the same thing when it comes to running, with the current technology, with the current environment, people are improving their running skills, are running faster and faster, also because of the training and the practice they do. So there is a lot at play when it comes to improving and to learning and to constantly training for a better you and a better self. And I truly believe that the approach of pro athletes being constantly in this training mode is something that you should also consider in your day-to-day, in your work environment. So of course, you're not learning in the same way that you currently, or that you could do, or an athlete could do, because you're working full-time. So it's not like an athlete usually spends most of their days in the training environment. But putting a training schedule, putting a learning schedule or a learning plan within the year, moments within your calendar where you will be developing yourself is critical. The way you can do that is multiple ways. You can either consider, okay, right now the most I have to learn is directly from the job. So on the day-to-day, I will learn as I go, but don't forget to reflect. So I would always consider, yes, if you're learning on the job, keep that opportunity, but also reflect on it, take some notes so that you're not just like learning by doing, but also reflecting on it. And then, of course, you can also get a certification. You can go back to school. You can take a training at work. So there is there is a lot of opportunities and a lot of things that can be done when it comes to learning. But what's important is that you always know and have clarity of what you're learning and toward which direction and which goal. So which skills are you trying to improve? Are you trying to learn from? The second one is really building a team around you. I think when you look at today, the biggest or the most famous athletes in the world, they all have a team around them. And then they have also the budget for it. Don't get me wrong. And it's a bit the same way I've seen it with some of top management in some corporations, where they also have built a team around them. They sometimes have a coach, they sometimes have a nutritionist, they sometimes have a gym trainer. So there are some similarities if you look at it. So you need for your own self to work a little bit in that similar pattern. And what you see from athletes is that depending on which level they are, they're going to have a different setup, right? They are very top of their fields, they're the best, they have all the financials to do that. They're usually going to have the circle that is there full time for them, doing all the work. You even have some athletes that have a chef cooking for them. So they're really surrounded. And of course, for you may not be in a financial category to do that. I'm not. But I still defined and built a team around me. It's just different. And I can tell you also when I look at people that I know or people that I see, for example, in the tennis world where you don't have a lot of money beyond the top athletes, then you have to find ways. So you share coach or you ask for support to a friend or you find different way to get still that team and that feeling and that environment. So what you should do, and what I have to say, I'm the first one that has done that, is define who are the people that needs to be around me and which skills do they need to have, what the team does need to be, and how can I find them, and what do I need to get them? Does it require financial, etc.? I defined for myself that I needed to have someone that takes care of my physical health. So I have a running coach. He does also share with me some workouts, some strength training. But overall, my wellness when it comes to physical health is taken care by him. And I defined a financial amount that I was willing to pay. He's online, so we don't do one-on-one session. So of course it's cheaper, but he gives me a training plan. The training plan is based on what I need. So I found my way like this. So you may not be able to do that, to even afford that, even though mine is, I'm lucky enough to have found a very nice coach and for a very great monthly cost. I found the right coach for me. You may also find a gym or a place where you have a group session, and that's this person that you kind of follow or have. Sometimes there is a group coaching that can be done. So whatever you find for you, I would definitely advise to have someone to support within wellness. It could also be a friend that is very good at doing that and love to do this and would give you some tips, some tricks, help you catch up with your plan, or once every 6 months to give you advice, etc. The second person that for me surrounded me was to have someone to take care of my mental health. So I have a psychologist that I work with for now almost 3 years. The same thing, I defined what would be my budget I would be willing to pay. So I only see her once a month because it definitely has a certain cost. But I feel like with this, I'm able also to converse with her, to talk openly of how I'm feeling, how I'm dealing with things, etc. So it's really focused on my mental health. And that is also helping me and has impact for my job. The third person I like to surround myself with is to have in a way form of coach from a business standpoint. So there are many ways. You have today a lot of coaches out there, and I know some amazing ones. So if you ever need some referrals, I have a few people that I know are amazing coaches. But for me personally, I was not in the situation right now. I'm not in the situation right now that I can afford to have a coach full time. So what I'm working with is a bit different. So I have 3 mentors that I'm working closely with, where we discuss. So mentors, coach, 2 different roles, but at the same time, I'm still getting a bit of that mentor discussion, really business-like exchange with the person. So while I'm not getting the full picture of what a coach can bring, I'm getting that input at the moment. In the past, I had a coach when I needed it for a specific purpose during a specific period of time. And that was also very helpful. And the last person that I have surrounded myself with, and I'm lucky enough in that case that I have a friend who is a nutritionist for athletes. And as I want also this nutrition to reflect with the amount of sports that I do, with the stressful life that I have, then I'm lucky enough that she's helping me, and I'm really grateful for that. So those are the professional for say that are around me and the team I've built, but you can of course have further people that are supporting you. I mean, when you look at athletes, they have family, they have financial advisors, they have a manager that takes care from the business side, etc. So there is a lot of different opportunities. Of course, you don't need one person for each. What I'm meaning by this chat and by this section of this episode is to tell you that having a team around you of professional people that well know what they're doing, this can be very helpful to remove some of the extra work and the extra mental strength needed to tackle those topics on top of everything else. And I've found that having people that are also in that circle are people that want the best for me, and we're really working together toward my success. Of course, they're also working on their own success and they have their own format of that, but I do feel like it has helped me a lot to build that trusted circle of people. Beyond this circle of people, again, professional, I also have my family, I have my friends that each have a different roles, and they're all important for the success of my career, of my life. But I truly believe that the same way you see, and like you can take the example when you see Rafael Nadal, when he used to play and go to Roland Garros, and you would see his family, you would see his coach, you would see his manager, etc. And you can take this with any sports. If you look at it, they all have a team around them. And so with that, truly think about it. Who are the people and what do you need from those people, and how can you build that team, that trusted circle? The third portion, or the third part of what I wanted to share today is rest and recovery. And I'm the first one on that. I'm not good at it. I am heavily struggling to sleep properly. I have a moment when I wake up, etc. But I still try to rest. And rest and recovery doesn't include only sleeping. It also includes resting your brain, resting your body, etc. So taking care of your wellness after the intense work moment, I would say in that case. So usually when an athlete's finish training or when they finish an actual competition, they have massages, they have time they sleep a lot. They also have different napping time. They have a different schedule in place depending on when is the next game or match or whatever competition they have. They have a certain routine that they have built in order to make sure their body and their mind recover. And this is also something that we need. You cannot be working 200% all the time without having a proper rest, a proper recovery time. And here again, this is where potentially meditation can help, or hobby, as per the previous episode, or any other forms that's going to get your mind out of the current work environment that you're in. It's important that for your own recovery every day after your busy day at work, that you really take and try to forget about work and really take time for yourself to recover mentally. So physically, make sure to sleep properly, make sure to even stretch. If you've been sitting at your desk crunching all day, this is not good, right? We need movement. So you need that time, making sure you have this active moment where you do sports, because you can end up being very muscle tense in a certain environment and basically being back into a more active, a more also like doing yoga, doing exercise that's going to have your muscle working differently and being able to recover in some way. I would highly advise to find an activity, to find a time to recharge, almost a decompression before going from work to your personal life. Have this moment, and it can be a couple of minutes, it can be sometime a ride in the car or on the train, but there should be a moment in time where you kind of decompress from being in work mode to being in your personal life, to have that opportunity to really like release and not forget, but like move on, so that you can focus on the rest of your personal life, and that it doesn't stay on your minds constantly. When you have had a busy day, when you had a stressful day, it's never easy. Like topic can keep playing again and again, and I'm the first one can tell you, sometime even at night this happened, or sometime even over lunch when I'm working remote, I have to go walk my dog and I'm still thinking about what I was talking about in the last meeting, and that's not good. So it's always important to find this way, and depending if it's a short time or long time, find a way to decompress or to stop thinking about it, to have this in between moment, I would really say. If it is the case that you want to have it over lunch, and I think I would also consider to have it over lunch, take a minute or two, take a deep breath, go to the bathroom, take a glass of water before going to eat. Do something that is making you feel like, okay, I'm not going into another meeting and I'm not resassing what I've been like thinking about at work. I can really focus on my lunch even more. And I would highly advise to have a lunch that is not focusing on work topic. If possible, I also have sometimes work topic, but whenever you have a fun lunch with someone, it's always nice to have this moment before you go. And then same thing, you can have it again before you start working. You take a deep breath and go back to it. And same thing in the evening, really highly advised to have, again, this moment of like, okay, I'm breathing, I'm like out, I put everything on the side, I take a moment, I listen to a podcast, I'm listening to music you like, whatever it is, but have this moment so that your recovery or your time where you can reset, where you can have your brain not thinking about work anymore, can really be fully set, fully organized. I'm not finding the right word, but I'm hoping you know what I mean. And as you know, I'm never perfect with this podcast, but I hope this helps you understand the importance of that transition period between work and personal life, and how that can be helpful for your recovery, because your recovery is not only physical, it's also mental. The third one, I think it's going to resonate with a lot, but it's equipment and tools. If you look at any sports, if you look at new running shoes, new tennis rackets, I pretty much can tell like new shorts, new pair of even bras, whatever it is. When you look at the latest technology in sports, you have to get to that technology, right? You have to have the best of the best. If you are a runner, now there is those new carbon shoes. All the athletes have it because it's critical for them to have those carbon, because this is the latest technology that make them faster. And in the same way, for business, you have to make sure that you have the correct equipment. And in that case, that's the correct software, the correct hardware, the correct apps. And that means getting used to the new technology. Imagine being an athlete and being a tennis players back in the days that was playing with a wooden racket. And then all of a sudden it switched from wood to this other very brand new material. So the shape was changing of the racket, was very, very different product. And unfortunately, I don't have any with me to show you, but if you were watching, I'm pretty sure we'll put some of it on Insta. But basically, this was quite a change. And if a tennis player had decided, no, I don't want this change, then that person, he or she, would be really held back and would not be a pro, or would not be able to continue or be at the same level of the others. No matter how good that player was, or at that time, it would not have been possible, because the switch of racket was so different that it has such an impact on the game itself. So everyone had to switch. And it's very similar to now the running shoes with carbon, or to any other new technology that is being used for football boots or any other items that you find, or any other technologies as they need. Or look, sailing, for example. They need a certain level of technology, and they need to use a GPS of today in order to be able to be the best and to pick the best routes, etc. And that's valid everywhere. And this is the same for you in your job. You cannot keep on using the technology that you know and not get upgraded to the latest one. And I will make a parallel to what's going on today, AI. you have to get on board with AI. And I know it's not easy for everyone, and we are not on the same level of capacity to change and to deal with all the changes and how fast it's going. But you have to get on board with that change. And I have to say, I'm the first one that I have had, I think, one tool that I kept on saying, I don't need this. And I decided to make the change, not because I actually need it on a day-to-day today. No, I can still use my old Excel file and it's still working. But I know that potentially 1 year from now, 2 years from now, that other tool is going to be the tool to use. So it's better that I deal with it now while it's still fresh, when people are still figuring it out, than if I deal with it 2 years from now when everybody is already like fully familiar and I have to get there. It's harder. So I would always try to make sure that you have really the certain level of technology. And I'm not asking you to have the latest phone or something like this, or the latest tablet, because some of those hardwares are not automatically better, and it's also expensive, and it's not about this. I have, I think, an iPhone 11. So, and I think we are on iPhone 17. So I'm not saying that you have to have the latest technology all the time when it comes to the latest product, but I'm talking about making sure that you're able to use the latest software, use the latest technology for your fields and the product that makes sense for you, for what you're doing. And that is just critical, and that will help you grow and help you learn better and help you be more prepared and be also at the same level of the other of your colleagues that are going for the same position. If you're working with the same tool as they are, or even better tool or the latest tool, and they're still on the older tool, you will have a competitive advantage in the long term. And it's not only for today to get the job that you want, but it's also for tomorrow, for the long term, because that change is going to be constant and it's going to keep on growing. And that's critical for you to be able to keep on learning and evolving with the evolution that we are going on and the technology evolution we're currently going on. And right now it's digital, it's technology. Potentially in the future it's going to be something else. You just have to keep on taking care of learning and having the right tool and equipment around you. The next topic is one of my favorite one, and I think not a lot of people know this about me when you look at my current position and what I currently do, but I love numbers. And so the next topic is performance analytics. You need to constantly look at your performance and analyze it, and based on this adapt it. And that means looking at the numbers for athletes. So what's the latest speed they are going into, or what's the latest rate of success in a shot, I don't know, in basketball, whatever it is. They need to constantly look at the numbers to know how good they are doing and what needs to be improved. And of course, there is a part of that is quantitative and another part that is qualitative. And in the same way, we have the same at work. And it looks like very often we don't really have the numbers as much. It feels very difficult, but you can find some numbers somewhere. But you definitely have a lot of qualitative data of information, and you can find them in people's feedback, in people's word, in email that you see, in how you handled some situation. You really need to take the time to take that qualitative data and understand how good am I doing, what's my current performance level. And your performance is never going to be exactly the same, or you're not always going to be like going up and do better and better and better. So potentially you have to look at how is my performance right now based on how I'm feeling right now. And like an athlete, right? If an athlete is sick, they're going to most likely have, from a body standpoint, some more difficulties. And based on that, they will be able to say, I don't know, like when I'm sick, I'm running whatever amount of minutes slower, or like maybe not when I'm sick, but right after I'm sick. So I need, I don't know, 1, 2, 3 days or whatever X days that I need for recovery. And by the time I'm recovered or I'm past this X date, then usually my body is back to being 100%. So there is a moment I'm sick, then there is a moment I'm still recovering and improving and being back to my previous self. And then there is that cutoff where I feel that way again. And you can do the same. You can do the same with your personal journey, right? If you have a tough day, or if you've been sick one day, look at how you feel the next day, and then the next day, and then the next day. And potentially you look at it and you're like, okay, yeah, I was sick for 3 days. I don't know, the flu. And during that time, I slept a lot, but I was also very tired. And so even though I got back to work after 3 days, I still had tiredness. I couldn't focus properly, etc. And you can rate those elements. And then you rate on day 1 and on day 2 and on day 3. And after you realize, okay, then it take me maybe 4 days. So 3 days of being sick, 4 days of recovery, and then I was back to myself. And then the next time, you're going to do the same thing. And maybe the next time it's going to tell you it's 2 days. And then you look at it, okay, but was it the same disease, or what did I have, and what setup, etc. And you're going to be able to build your data about it. I know it sounds very scientific and a lot of work for someone that potentially don't like the data, but I think it can really help you define what makes sense for you. And also when it comes to your schedule. Because if you're not feeling good one day, you're not going to perform in the best, right? So potentially this is the day where you say, okay, I do 1 less hour, but then I do 2 when I'm back to full potential. So maybe after coming back from a sick leave, maybe you do, I don't know, a half day if you can. There are different scenarios, right? Or you're going to do different tasks. Maybe you do simpler tasks that requires less complexity, less of your physical health during the time that you recover. And I'm not saying this is feasible for all jobs and for all situations, but try this out. That can give you a lot of information. So really look at it from that angle, but also look at it from the point, as I was saying earlier, when it comes to feedback. How am I currently performing? Where was I successful? And when you're very successful, I don't know, you had a great presentation, or you delivered like so much that day, what made the difference? Is it that you ate differently? Is it that you slept differently? Is it that you were in a different mood? What are the criteria around you that made you perform better that day? And then maybe you make a referral on your performance level based on certain criteria, and then maybe that gives you some data science again. And I think that would be fun to do. I'm not saying that I'm doing this in that level of details. I would love to if I had the time. But sometimes I look at it really from that standpoint of like, okay, what's my level of energy today? And what are the criteria that makes it that my level of energy is potentially lower? So I know potentially I have had like 4 or 5 days, 10 days, sometimes even in a row, that work has been super intense. I know that potentially this is the moment that I need to say, okay, I need that to finish 1 hour before, to start the weekend 1 hour before, or to take a day off if I can. But really have that moment where I can like, okay, recuperate really, because then I will be more perform better after. But I know that threshold. I know how many days in a row can I be at a certain level of performance until it's too much and I need a physical and mental break. And that break also, I've been talking a lot about taking a break, taking time off, but it can also be, as I said, take smaller tasks. I've had the case before where I know my brain is full. I cannot think anymore. I cannot do anything anymore. And so I take the most simplest task, which is to clean my inbox or to reorganize my to-dos, which it's always important to have clarity on that. So it's still valuable workload, but usually it's something that requires less from my brain. And that helped me in a way recover. But I know this because I have analyzed my performance and I've analyzed what works and what doesn't. And I also, kind of keep on checking how I performed. And that's valid if I take another case scenario with presentations, right? When you're presenting, the best case is that if someone puts a camera on and that you're able to watch yourself afterwards. And I know it's tough. At the beginning, I hated it. But I realized that having the camera on allowed me to then review it and see what I did wrong. So with this podcast, for example, I realized that I say a lot of so, a lot of and, a lot of So I'm trying, here's the so. I'm trying to do this less, but the only way I'm knowing this is because I'm re-listening to the podcast. I'm also watching it because I'm taping it for social media a little bit to have some clips. So that allow me to know, okay, how did I feel? How did I look? What was how engaged was I with the episode? And also, how often did I stumble? Did I say those words that are really annoying, to be honest? And how often do I have to cut them? I cut them a lot. I cut a lot of I'm struggling to cut the so and the end because it's usually transition. But I'm hoping that I will get better at it over the time. So those are the learnings that I have from this. And I would really highly advise that if someone offer to take a camera on and to, during your presentation, accept it, because that's going to allow you to know what you did good and not good. And I don't want it to be as if you are taking it as a self-critic and be too hard on yourself. You have to be fair when looking at it. That just can be really helpful to build really to understand how you performed and what are the progress that you need to make. Audience engagement, etc. Like how you use your tone, how you manage between looking at your screen and actually looking at the audience or reading the text, etc. So there is many different pieces that you have to consider. That is really how performance analytics can really help you. I'm not doing it every day, but I really do believe this can be helpful if we were to put that in place for our own career. Another few points that I had in mind, but I don't really want to talk too much about it during this episode because I think they will require quite more time. But it's building a community and networking is the first one, and then the other one is mental toughness. And the reason why I don't want to talk about it is because I do believe that those episodes on their own can really be a topic that there is a lot to talk about. And when I'm already looking at the time, I definitely see that this episode is going to be long. I was kept on thinking that my episodes will be around 20 to 30 minutes, and the last one was much longer. I fear this one might end up being longer as well. But this is valuable to think about how handling the pressure. So I would really like to do an episode on this, but it's very valid how athletes train for this and how we can train for that as well. And then, as I said, also the episode around community, building a community and networking, because this is critical in your career. Networking, I've seen the value of it firsthand. So we really want to do a full episode on it. I just wanted to mention it so you have them in mind as well in your day-to-day, and I'm hoping that very soon I can do one episode on it. In the meantime, before I close this one, I think there was one topic that I wanted to also most likely at some point make maybe a longer episode, but I think already here I can say a lot. And we talked about rest and recovery. We talked about building the team around you. We talked about having the right tools and equipment, etc. But there is one topic that for me has shown to be also critical, and is nutrition. And I'm not the best. I have way too much sugar, most likely, in my nutrition. But I do feel like when I talk to people about the importance of nutrition, it's quite interesting how people react to it, or how people view it. Within the team that I work with, very often there is candy. And I have to say it's valid for this team, it's valid for the previous team, it's valid for all the team pretty much I worked with. Maybe there was one team along the way that didn't really have candy, but all the other teams I worked with, we always had candy in the office. And that tells you something, right? That means that all those people that are, I have to say, always been high performers, are needed of sugar at some point within the day in order to still perform. So is it the right thing or not? I don't think so technically from a nutrition standpoint, but it's also sometimes it is what it is. We are under pressure and there is a need. It's the same thing also that you see a lot of people at work having caffeine, right? I've seen some friends being like, I'm on my 4th, 5th coffee by the middle of the afternoon. And I'm not judging the fact that you take coffee. I'm not judging the fact that you need sugar. I do need sugar in order to perform. I'm just mentioning it more in the sense that I know that nutrition impacts you a lot and impacts your body, impacts your brain during this time. So it's critical to have healthy habits and to have a healthy nutrition. And that means drinking and eating, by the way, and to try to find a good balance within that format. I think for me, having had a nutritionist has helped me define what I'm doing good and what I'm not doing good yet. It has helped me define what I want to change. It has also helped me define how I want to change it. And I'm not ready to have a salty meal for breakfast. I'm still on my little croissant or smoothie or whatever sugary. It's more sugary for sure for me for breakfast as a French person. But I'm ready to make some changes. And when I talk to friends, I do feel like it's a bit similar. They see, whenever I don't have certain type of food, I feel more aware at work, or I feel more energized. So there is definitely this component that matter. And most athletes take it very seriously. They eat at a certain point in time in order to perform at a certain point in time. They're going to eat a certain type of food. So, for example, if you have to go and have a race, or like a Ironman, for example. I take maybe this example. I was listening to an episode about Ironman earlier as a podcast, and the guy was like, the race was starting, I think, at 8. So he woke up at 4. And for him, it felt like 4 was not too early. But it's important that he wakes up, that he makes sure that he eats like a certain amount of hours before the race, because the race is going to be long, 7-8 hours in that case. So it's a whole process, and the nutrition matter during the race as well as before and after the race. You also need recovery products. So whenever I play tennis, I have to have certain type of food during the game. So banana, like a certain drinking, energy drink type of things, water, etc. And it's the same thing as at work. I have to make sure that I hydrate myself along the day, that I get the right amount of energy, that I pick the right meal for lunch, that I pick the right meal for breakfast, that I also pick the right meal for dinner in order to be the next day, to be in the right mood. Of course, still enjoy, because as I mentioned earlier, when it comes to pro athletes, they are training most of the year and then having only a few competition. When you are a professional at work and business or any other fields, it's the other way around. You're more in competition mode, or at least in performance mode, than you are in actual training mode. So of course you need some time to let it out. So I mean, if you like to have a glass of wine, feel free to have a glass of wine. I'm not encouraging alcohol use or any type of addiction use, but I'm saying you can still enjoy, but consider what you're putting in your body, how this is going to fuel you. And as I said, I'm not the perfect person, but I do see the impact of making the right choices. So I would highly advise you to do the same, and to think about it, and to think if you wish to make some changes in your choices, in your diet, and see if this impacts your performance as well. One topic as well is about personal branding, and we see it a lot today, right, with social media, the fact that even if you're an athlete, you need to build a personal brand in order to be, in a way, bankable by the different brands, meaning that it's not only about your results, but how also you frame your results, how you brand yourself overall. So it's important that you also consider this for your work life. You have to consider cultivating your professional reputation. Right, when an athlete has a certain reputation, then the brands linked to that certain reputation will follow, and it's a little bit similar. You want to show who you are, and you want to represent certain values, and you have to make sure that then your professional career goes along those. So, for example, if you are all about ecology, then you need to make sure that if you were an athlete, you cannot just take any brands. You need to take a brand or pick or work with brands that are highly about ecology or like sustainability, etc., in link with what are your values and what you put out there as your brand on your page. So similarly, when it comes to work, if you have certain values, then you need to go along and pick your career or pick jobs linked to this. So if I remain in the same category of sustainability, an athlete is going to pick to work with brands that are pro-sustainability or working toward it, or maybe they're making more sustainable product that the athlete will wear, or they are supporting associations around the topic. So it's going to fit into the overall branding of that athlete's next to potentially who they are. And potentially it's all about how amazing they are at their game. And I'm not saying this is not valid, but there are other things that comes around that brand, their brand. And you have to see similarly of yourself. You are your own brand. And in that sense, let's say you are also all about sustainability, and this is what you want to put out there as your brand for the workplace. You have also to work with that. You're not going to work with a certain company that destroys the planet if you are all about sustainability. And I won't name any companies. I'm trying to only talk vaguely about the topic because potentially I pick something that is not controversial, but maybe if I start naming companies, that's not going to go well. But what I mean is that it's important that you brand your career and your reputation similarly to who you are as a personal brand. So same thing when it comes to performance. If the athlete is like, I'm the best at whatever, then the same thing. If you are the best at whatever for your career, you also have to put it out there and make sure that you do public speaking, LinkedIn, all those things around it, like do also this branding. And I still see some people that are not a fan of it, and I get that, but I also see the fact that some people not putting a certain brand out there, not having as many opportunities, and I also myself struggle to define what's exactly my brand. So this podcast maybe is helping me define it as I'm all about growing and learning, but I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying it's important to put it out there and to build around it, because that's going to have an impact long term. We see today social media, and I'm not talking about Instagram, TikTok, I'm also talking about LinkedIn. It's becoming more and more important, and your presence and your social presence and who you represent being highlighted beyond a resume today has value. And it has value when it comes to brand picking their representative and their athletes, and it will have value in the future when it comes to picking their employees. You have to, of course, be careful of how you put yourself out there and what you say and what you do. And I'm not saying that there is a perfect strategy or perfect situation, but I'm just saying I think it's important today to define who you want to be and how you want to be, how do you want to present yourself outside of work and within work in your day-to-day. Another episode that will be much longer than expected, I think. So we talked today about what we can learn from being an athlete and put it for our career. So when it comes to recovery and rest, when it comes to training, constantly train, constantly learn, using the right tool, using the right technology, also looking at your performance analytics, and many more things. And I appreciate you taking the time to listen to, again, I think a longer than expected episode. I really appreciate your time, and I appreciate all your support. Please feel free to subscribe to the podcast or to leave a comment. You can also subscribe on social media. So I'm on YouTube, I'm on Apple Podcasts, I'm also on Spotify. And feel free to share and to exchange. I'm looking forward to building this community. I really appreciate your time, and I wish you a very nice day, and talk to you soon in the next episode. Bye.